Ok, ya tengo su atención. Ok, mis queridos alumnos, como les dije, me voy a poner a leer. Voy a hacer, cada video va a ser un capítulo. Y después de ahí vamos a ver si tienen preguntas, qué preguntas tengan. Voy a intentar de leer como normalmente le estoy leyendo. Así que BHS, hello. This is for EL Language Arts 2. Y de una vez vamos a comenzar. Voy a empezar con el séptimo capítulo. Creo que Juan dijo que es el capítulo donde va. Así que estamos leyendo Breaking Through by Francisco Jimenez. And we're going to go start with summer skirmishes. Okay? Get your books out. Follow along with me. The summer after graduation from junior high was pretty much the same as those previous years, except that I was the only one who joined Papa in picking strawberries for Ito. Roberto came only on Saturdays and Sundays because he worked full-time as a janitor for the Santa Maria School District. I looked forward to the weekends, when my brother, Papa, and I worked together. Roberto and I found ways to have fun. We raced to see who could pick faster and fill more crates. He was a much faster picker than I was, so I lost every time, except when Papa helped me. Whenever Papa and I picked side by side, he handed me handfuls of strawberries. Papa never let on that he knew about our game, but I figured he must have known, because one time when I filled my crate faster than Roberto, he glanced at my brother and winked at me. One morning, I started a strawberry war. I had learned the spelling and definition of the word skirmish, which I had added to my notepad to memorize that day. I was bored and tired of picking on my knees, so I stood up to stretch. Roberto was ahead of me, 2 rows away. I could not resist the perfect target. I picked up a rotten strawberry, looked around to make sure that Papa was not looking, and threw it at Roberto. The mushy bullet splashed on his back, leaving a reddish, purplish wound the size of a baseball. My brother turned around, startled. He knew I was the enemy when he saw me snickering. He raised his clenched fist at me, turned back, and kept on picking. I glanced at Ito. He had a puzzled look on his face, but did not say anything. I hope he didn't see me, I thought. I continued working, and to keep my mind occupied, began whistling rock and roll tunes and daydreaming about Peggy and the Vets. I danced song after song with her. Suddenly, I felt a blow on the back of my right shoulder. I instinctively reached behind with my left hand and scooped up a rotten strawberry. I turned around. Roberto was picking on his knees behind me, 4 rows away. He had his head down, trying to hide his smirk. At lunchtime, Roberto and I put on our jackets to hide our strawberry stains. When we got home, we quickly took off our shirts. Mama saw the stains, shook her head, and gave us a stern look. I knew she would not tell Papa because she did not want to upset him. That evening, Ito was coming to our house to deliver our paychecks for the week. I was afraid he might have seen me throw the strawberry at Roberto and say something to Papa. I was terribly nervous. In preparation for his visit, we all made sure the house was in order. Roberto swept and wet mopped the floors. I cleaned the kitchen. Trampito and Torito picked up papers and trash outside the house that dogs had scattered from the garbage cans. Rora followed them, making sure they did not miss anything. Mama made a fresh batch of flour tortillas and refried beans to give to Ito. Papa sat at the kitchen table, giving orders and going over our savings, which he kept in a small metal box. Ito arrived shortly after we had finished our chores. He was dressed up as usual in khaki pants and shirt and brown shoes. His dark, straight hair had combed back, and his tan face looked smooth and shiny. I fixed my eyes on every move he made and hung on every word he said, trying to see if he was upset with me. He and Papa shook hands and bowed. Ito took a seat at the head of the table, took out his checkbook, and placed it in front of him. Mama offered taquitos. No gracias, he said in a thick American accent. There were long periods of silence because Ito spoke only English and Papa spoke only Spanish. Mama, Roberto, and I interpreted for both of them. Ito began to write 3 checks. I knew Papa's check was for $65 because he got paid $1 an hour. Roberto and I received 85 cents per hour, just like the braceros. Ito paid Papa more than us because Papa was a better picker and because he had worked for Ito for several summers. Papa felt special and looked for ways to show Ito his gratitude. When it was time to quit work at the end of the day, Papa kept on picking for another 10 or 15 minutes, even though he did not receive pay for the extra time. When Ito finished making out the checks, he handed them to Papa. Pregúntale si quiere algo para tomar, Papa said, bowing his head and smiling. Papa asked if he would like something to drink. I said, No gracias, Don Francisco, Ito responded, bowing to Papa. I made some taquitos for you to take home, Mama said proudly. She handed Ito a bundle of refried beans, tacos wrapped in wax paper. Ito's eyes lit up. My wife and kids love your tacos, he said. Don Gabriel really liked Mama's taquitos too, I said. Remember him, Mr. Ito? Of course I remember him, Ito responded. He worked for me a few years ago. VS, the labor contractor, had it in for him and sent him back to Mexico. Ito paused, looked straight into my eyes, and raising his voice, added, He was a good, serious worker. I lowered my head. Ito looked at his watch and excused himself. Papa and Mama walked him to the door. I followed behind. He got in his pickup truck, waved, and said, chuckling, You have a good arm, Pachito. I blushed and looked away. What did he say? Papa asked. He said Pachito is a good worker, Mama responded, coming to my rescue. I looked up at Mama and smiled sheepishly. On weekdays, after work, Roberto and I regularly went to the city dump with Trampita and Torito to look for discarded treasures, like wood, paint, and broken toys. On one of our trips, I found an old copy of Dr. Dolittle. I tried reading 5 pages every evening, but often I was too tired to concentrate and did not understand what I read. Other times, my younger brothers played kick the can in front of our barrack and tried to get me to play with them. But I refused because Carlos, a bully, never allowed my friend Manuelito to play. Roberto did not play games outside with the boys. Papa said he was too old to play sports, so he worked on his car. He kept it spotless and shiny. Sometimes Trapita and I watched tadpoles and little fish in the nearby reservoir. Trampita came up with a plan one day to catch fish and to sell them for a nickel apiece to kids in our neighborhood. It took us a few evenings after work to finish the project. The first day we made a trip to the city dump to look for empty glass jars to put the fish in and for materials to build a stand. We found old splintered boards, 2x4s, and cardboard. The following evening, we began construction under the watchful eye of Carlos and his 2 friends who played all day. They seemed fascinated by our skills. We cleaned the wood, pulling out rusty nails and rubbing the boards together to smooth out the splinters. The third day, Roberto helped us build the stand. We then covered it with cardboard and hung a sign that read, Goldfish, 5 cents each. The next step was to catch fish. We walked to the reservoir, which looked like a barren hill. It was at the edge of the 2-lane road leading to Santa Maria, about a quarter of a mile from Bonetti Ranch. An old, lonely pepper tree stood guard next to it. Its lower branches slumped to the ground, bent from the weight of the kids who swung on them, playing cowboys and Indians. Trampita yanked off two of its broken branches and gave me one. Carrying the branch in one hand and an empty coffee can with a glass jar in the other, we stepped back a few yards from the base of the reservoir to gain speed and ran up to the top, which was about 5 feet wide all around. We took off our shoes, rolled up our pants, and carefully slid down the crater to the edge of the water. Using our branches, we cleared the algae and removed empty beer bottles, crushed cans, and paper. We threw in tortilla bits, trying to attract a little gray fish and goldfish that hid under the murky waters. Hundreds of tadpoles squirted around, but no fish. We waited and waited. Nothing. That evening, we went home empty-handed and disappointed, but we did not give up. The next day, we returned to the same spot. We sprinkled the clearing with fresh tortilla bits and waited. I kissed my St. Christopher medal. The croaking sounds of frogs broke the silence, and within seconds, a swarm of tadpoles, followed by a pair of goldfish, filled the clearing. I could feel my heart thumping faster and faster. I gently put the can in the water and quickly scooped it up, catching one of the fish and several tadpoles. "I got one," I yelled. Trampito darted over excitedly. He put his hand in the can and carefully grabbed the tiny goldfish and put it in the jar. Holding the container steady, we climbed back up to the top and placed it down the ground. We laid on our stomachs, facing each other with a jar between our faces, and watched the little fish swim rapidly up and down and around. My brother's face looked huge. He opened and closed his lips rapidly, pretending to be a fish, and chuckled. I struck out my tongue and made faces. We both burst out laughing. "We'd better catch a few more before it gets dark," I said, still laughing. We went back, caught 9 more fish, and skipped home whistling. As we reached Bonetti Ranch and turned the corner, we ran into Carlos and his 2 friends. They were standing behind a large wooden box in front of the empty barrack. On the wall behind the stand was a sign, "Goldfish, 2 for 5 cents." From that day on, I spent more time struggling through Dr. Dolittle. So what happened there? Juan, ¿qué fue lo que pasó? ¿Entendiste todo? You've got questions? Make comments or in our group chat, okay? I'm going to continue on. It's only a couple more pages. Toward the end of the summer, when the peak of the strawberry season was over and when work was slow, Ito gave us Saturday afternoon off. Papa took advantage of one of those afternoons to try his new clippers on my younger brothers and me. He found the old rusty pair at the city dump. The right handle was broken and a few teeth were missing. Papa oiled it and set up the barber shop in the shed using an unstable wooden box as a chair. I was his first customer. I stripped to my waist and climbed onto the box. Papa began to cut with his newest tool. As he clipped, hair fell on my shoulders, prickling me like needles. I squirmed and wiped it off. The box creaked. I moved again. Papa quickly moved the clippers away from my head and yelled, "Don't move!" It was too late. A chunk of hair fell on my lap. I reached up to feel the nicked spot. I said, "Stay still," Papa yelled again, slapping my hand. Using his left hand like a vice, he held my head still and clipped away with his right. As he cut, he put more and more weight on his left hand, making my neck twist to the right. I felt as he was trying to push me into the ground. I tried to straighten it, pushed up against my papa's hand. The box creaked. Another clump of hair rolled on my shoulders. Tears came to my eyes. I clenched my teeth and clasped my hands together until it was over. I climbed off the crate, rushed to the bedroom, and picked up the hand mirror. I slowly scanned my face, wiping away the hair clippings from my chin and nose. As I brought the mirror upward to my forehead, I closed my eyes, said a silent prayer, and quickly opened them. I was shocked. My front wave was gone. I had short bangs and nicks on both sides. It looked like the stray dogs with Mang that populated Bonita Ranch. I felt like yelling at Papa, but I know I couldn't. It would be worse. I complained to Mama. You don't look too bad, mijo, she said tenderly. In a couple of weeks, it'll grow back. She picked up my cap and put it on me. There, you look just fine, she added cheerfully. I knew Mama did not mean it because she bought Papa a new set of clippers at the Goodwill store the following week. I wore my cap all the time for days and only took it off when I went to bed. I skipped going to the vet's dances when Roberto for the rest of the summer. Ok, esa es la conclusión de ese capítulo. ¿Preguntas? Favor de hacerlo o ponerlos en el chat. Nos vemos a ratito.